Ah, there it's on. Thanks. I'm not used to having a mic, so I hope I don't yell out. Hi, I'm Carla Depke. I'm excited to be here today. I am a psychologist, and I work at the autism program at Illinois State University. And, Is that better? Okay, I work at Illinois State University. Just to get a feel, how many people here are psychologists? Okay, how about speech and language therapists? Social workers? Caregivers? What's that? QA? What does that mean? Quality? Intellectual disability professional. Thank you. How many case managers are there here? Great. Also a nurse. Any other medical professionals? All right. Wow. What are you? BCBA. I don't know why I didn't think of that. BCBA. Of course, a few. Did I miss anyone? I didn't say teacher. Teachers? Thanks. Hi. All right. I'm going to talk a little bit today about our use of words and how that can make a difference and why it makes a difference, okay? So I'm going to start. Gus is an autistic first grader, is a hyperactive child who can't sit still for more than a couple of minutes. He doesn't pay attention to instructions and is always moving about the room and asking silly questions. He is so distracting to the other kids, and he seems to like being disruptive. Okay. What do you think of Gus? And Gus is my dad's name. That's why he always gets a... See the kind of child you're excited to have?
It talks a lot about what he's doing, but not why he's doing or what might be disrupting his sensory system or whatever to get behavior.
Yeah, it's describing his behavior in kind of a negative way. So another way to describe it might be this. Gus, an autistic first grader, I see it doesn't, it's not moving.
There you go.
Okay. Gus, an autistic first grader, is a spirited young boy full of energy who is curious about everything he sees. He has a hard time focusing his energies on the topic at hand. He seems to want to connect with the children, but doesn't quite yet know how to do it effectively. Okay? Notice the difference?
Yep.
Yeah. How do you feel about Gus? This Gus. Huh? He's exciting. He's curious. He's wonderful. He's like, it's the same child. It's the exact same child, but it's just different words that we're using to describe him. I started this journey. Has anybody ever read Hacking Deficit Thinking by McClure and Reed? And yeah, if you haven't, it's like the *1 book I would recommend reading right now. It kind of talks about reframing things and reshaping things. And Byron McClure and Kelsey Reed, they also have podcasts that go on about this. But they talk about specifically language use and how it influences educators. So if a teacher were to get Gus #1 in the room, focusing on all the things that he can't do, what's going to happen is that teacher has a distorted view. And so now you have a child who can't sit still, who's really disruptive, and then that leads you to have some expectations. And the expectations are not that he's, interested and curious, that he's just distracting. So the lower the expectation, then that influences teachers' behaviors. And then that absolutely influences student outcomes. So what teachers expect of a child really influences how successful they are, and there are hundreds of studies that show that over and over again. And the thing is, it really comes from having a number of cognitive distortions, right? And those are really unhelpful ways of thinking about something or about someone. And it results in bias. It definitely does. Now, I like the McClure and Reed for teachers, but I also think it applies to caregivers. So how you talk about your own child or your child that you're caring for influences what you expect from them, which influences what you do, and that also influences the child outcomes. The same is true with clinicians. I mean, it's been researched a lot with teachers, not so much with clinicians. But if your expectation is that this child is going to have a more difficult time rather than building on their strengths, then your expectations are going to be lower, and it's likely going to influence their outcome. Okay, so what are some common distortions? There's that all or nothing thinking. A child is flexible or a child is rigid. That's kind of all or nothing. When in reality, we're all a little rigid sometimes, we're all a little flexible sometimes. There's also that generalization or overgeneralization, which is, let's say, a child who expresses their anger physically when they're upset may be described as an aggressive child. And that's not an aggressive child, that's a child who had an instance of aggression or an instance of getting angry physically. There's always discounting the positives. Oh, sure, he transitioned easy today, but that's because it was all fun things we were doing. So not appreciating those things. Stereotypes are really damaging. He's a low-functioning kid. What does that mean? Then there's should statements. He knows how to talk. He should use his words, not his behaviors. Okay? And should, sometimes you can use your words, but think, when you get upset, what's the first thing to go? We've all said things we haven't meant when we're angry, right? Or that we never would have said otherwise. So those should statements. And then blaming kids for things that are out of their control, right? He's always difficult on Mondays. Well, maybe that's because there was an unpredictable schedule over the weekend, or maybe there wasn't enough food, or maybe there wasn't whatever happened over the weekend. So those are common distortions, and what we want to do is kind of fight against those. Now, what I'm going to do is challenge you in your groups of 3 to be active and take this list of words that are maybe negative and reframe them into something that's nice. And I like you to work with each other because it's easier. Introduce yourselves to each other. Hi. Oh, sure. Oh, they don't have the sheet. Okay, I did not know people were watching online. Oh. Okay, so I'm just repeating the instructions for people online right now, so just keep going with yourself, ignore me. What I'd like you to do is take the list of words that you will get eventually and try to take the words that they have and create strength-based alternatives. Okay, I hate it when Shannon tells me what to do. Okay, how about, oh, is that because everyone can't hear? Okay, sorry. Sorry, online people. Okay, how about aggressive? Driven. Assertive. Absolutely passionate. Loud. Expressive. Boisterous. Passionate would also work. Powerful. Over emotional. In touch with their emotions. Empathetic. Sensitive. Someone said vulnerable. Passionate. How about lazy? Huh? Bored. Bored? Okay. What else? What? Passive. Observant. Low energy. Does things in their own time. How about loner? Independent. What's that? Introverted. Self-entertaining. Someone who likes their own company. Right? Clingy. Connected. Loving. Yeah, enjoy the presence of loved ones or security. Lovable. What's that? Loyal. Great one. Loyal. How about wild? Energetic. Adventurous. Active. And one, free thinker. Spirited, spontaneous. How about disorganized? Benefits from structure. I like that. Huh? Creative. Spontaneous. One of my students said carefree. Defensive. Strong convictions. Self-guarded. Determined. Protective, good one. Could also be sensitive or strong. Let's see. Oh, distractible, very similar to disorganized, huh? Distractible. Multitasker. Curious. Yeah. Excited about their environment. Ooh, spoiled. Loved. What else?
We put
Desires immediate gratification. Knows what they like. Selfish. Focused on self-interest. Self-awareness. Independent. I get this one from my neighbor. She would always say things like, they are still learning to share. Still learning to be a good friend. Still learning to, so still learning to share. How about unruly? What's that? Risk taker. Yeah. Spontaneous works for this one. Mistake. Well, yes. Uninhibited. Oh, nice. I like that. How about rude? Direct. Blunt. Honest. The most positive one of that, honest. Outspoken. Okay, how about slow? Methodical. Careful. Focused. Nice. Oh, good ones. Low functioning. Right. Requires additional supports. Still growing. Bossy. Leader. Takes charge. Self-advocate, absolutely. Or an advocate. Leader. How about whiny? Expressive. What's that? Persistent, yep. That was the hardest one for me because I really hate whiny people. All right. How about dumb? New to the situation. Out of the box thinker. Attention seeker. Social. Friendly. Confident. All kinds of things. And can you think of one for, it's not on your list, tattletale? What's an alternative to a tattletale? Oh, sorry. Thank you for doing that. What's that? Caring. Informed. Observant. Justice-oriented. So it's not that hard to come up with alternative words, right? Right. And so we want to just say to be careful to reflect on your thoughts and words. I throw this in here just, if you've never taken the implicit bias test from Harvard, I would take this implicit, I take it periodically. It is very revealing about what your biases, your implicit biases are, and those are the things that are automatic. And they're things that are more likely to be at play when you're in a situation where you have to make quick decisions. So how many people have taken this before? Yeah. Implicit bias, you can do it on weight, gender, sexual orientation, race, all kinds of things. They collect the data periodically. They've been collecting it, I think, for like 30 plus years now. And only in the United States, one of the biases has actually shifted in that time. Anybody want to guess what it is? Race? Not race, did you say? Yeah, sexual orientation, gender fluidity. And do you know why that is? Why would that be? Yeah, there's more acceptance. Why is there more acceptance? Better understanding, better representation. Representation started in movies, but almost everyone knows somebody personally who is gender fluid or gender non-conforming. I don't like that word. Okay, so just kind of some ideas to keep you thinking in these positive ways. Try to identify really the strengths in children and their families. And at any given point in time, this is my favorite saying, everyone is really doing the best they can, given their past experiences, their current circumstances, their resources, their emotional being. People are really doing the best that they can. Children want to be successful. I mean, actually, we all want to be successful. Caregivers want to be successful. And we all need some social support, right? So this all sounds nice, right? But is there any research to back up these ideas? So I want to put it here if the answer wasn't. Yes, yes there is. There's actually a few lines of research. One of the ones that I find interesting is there's a whole literature on how humans respond to words emotionally, okay? And there's the Warner scale, which was done first in English, but it's been repeated in multiple languages across the world. But in the United States, or in English, they have 14,000 words were rated by people on how they made them feel, okay? 1 was the most negative, and 9 was the most positive, okay? And in English, the average was slightly higher than 5, which means what? We have more positive words. We have more words that people respond positively to, so we can use them. So let's just look at some of the words we used, okay? And just remember, the higher the score, the more pleasant the rating is, okay? So defiant is 4.12, a little less than positive. But how about bold or courageous? When you look at those, bold is 6.68 and courageous is 8.05. So you can change somebody's emotional reaction to your description of a child just by using a different word than defiant. And then I took a few more to see what happens when we place impulsive with eager, aggressive with assertive, and stubborn with persistent. And you see the same pattern emerges, okay? Impulsive to eager goes from negative to positive. Aggressive to assertive goes from a negative to a positive. And stubborn to persistent goes from a negative emotional response to a positive emotional response, which is kind of interesting. So do we know anything about this in practice? Oh, I'm going to end early. We do know something about this in practice. Research has actually shown that word choice influences how people respond to children and how caregivers respond specifically in IEP meetings. So if you used, and some of the words that we have, this was someone's dissertation, took scripts and said, here's a description of a child and this, how willing would you be to work with this team? So it influenced not only how people emotionally responded, but it influenced the caregiver's trust in the school. With the more positive emotional words being used, the more trust the caregiver said they would have in the school. And also their willingness to collaborate with the school. So, which is important. And then the findings were even more robust when it was redone with a study looking at your child rather than just a child. So if you're talking about someone's child, their trust in the school went way up when they used the positive words. The trust in the school went way down, so the more extremes. And their willingness to collaborate went up with the positive words and down with the negative words. So it's probably worth something thinking about and getting used to using the more strength-based words. And it will probably actually help even your work environment you talk about each other. Okay, so there's always more research to be done. There's actually limited research looking at the families and looking at using strength-based language if it really does influence teachers' attitudes and expectations, if it influences caregivers' expectations, if it influences school and home, and then over time, which the most important thing is, does it influence the outcomes for a child? So, thank you, Ben. And then you could look at combined effects. If you can use these words with teachers and with caregivers. That's great. I mean, if somebody comes in and says, this child is disorganized and da 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 da, I wouldn't replace all of those words right away with a strength-based word. I'd nudge them a little at a time, because otherwise people feel like they're not heard at all. Oh, you mean they're curious? Oh, you mean they're this? And so to see if we can multiply the effects of using strength-based words and just get people used to using them. Yep. Okay, that's what I have today. Are there any questions? I'm sorry I ended early.
So I do have strength-based words are really strong in the academic setting, but when you're looking at payers for funding these, how do you navigate the disconnect between finding, the payers now finding like issues or deficits to address versus choosing nothing but positive words?
So, like, can you give me a concrete example? Oh, wait, you want to have him come up and...
Or you just like paraphrase the question so that the people online.
Okay, I'm going to understand the question first. So you're saying you want to identify...
Payers are looking for deficits and the negative.
Like state funding.
Yeah, are looking for...
Whereas if all the reports and the language are all strength-based, there's a disconnect between what the payer is willing to pay for and what's written in the report.
Oh, so you're saying, like, insurance
Yes.
will not pay if you're talking about the strengths of a child?
If you're painting a picture that's very rosy,
Well, it's... Okay, so I don't know if it's rosy or more accurate. I guess, I think we have to educate...
Because if I write a beautiful picture, say they're curious and delightful and blah, 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 instead of saying they're aggressive and violent and
Okay.
blah, 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 the state's going to say, he doesn't need any funding.
Okay, so here's what I would say. You have different audiences. So the audience that you need to do paying, you can replace curious with hyperactive. Or this. I mean, you do have to know your audience and what the goal is. I also think we probably need to do a better job of educating, although insurance companies don't like to pay for things that are fine, fair. But yeah, so I would say, so now you're saying, now I have to write 2 reports.
I will say, I live on both sides of that world, and a lot of people may, because as an EPA for a school district, like sitting in those IEP meetings and collaborating with the parents and the team, coming into, and so I found it very interesting that how it affects that willingness to collaborate. But as a parent myself, when you come into a meeting and someone is saying something negative about your child or something you deem as negative, whether they mean it that way or not, really is going to affect how I perceive the rest of the conversation. And then I don't hear you because I'm already thinking of all the things that I can say to defend my child.
Right, because that is my child.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the comment was that you see both sides. That as a parent, if somebody comes in and describes your child negatively, that kind of just shuts down the whole meeting. It shuts down what you're thinking. And so that would be where it is. As a BCBA, you have to justify why a child needs services.
I do think, though, that you can choose less positive words, but more,
But not the most negative.
Right, the less negative and less positive, so it's more accurate.
So maybe what we need to do is research with the insurance companies to see if we say it this way, will they do that?
I also feel like instead of using just descriptive words, you could use more like behavior-based terminology instead of just, writing what you think behavior is described as, and just write exactly what, whoever is doing.
So just rather than using a descriptive word, right, just Right, the behavior. So can you give an example?
Like, let's say, for impulsive, I guess, I used to work with a kid that would like to elope from the classrooms. Instead of saying that this kiddo was impulsive, I would say client, like, elope from the classroom at this rate, instead of saying that they are.
So you just give straightforward data. Okay, so I'm going to say yes and. Because yes, I think that is great, and you have to consider what language you're using. A colleague of mine did a whole bunch of things with behavioral terms, and elopement comes out as not a good term. So running away, leaving the area, something that is descriptive, and things like reinforcement comes out. It's really a bad one, actually. I don't know why, but the general population. Yeah, know your audience. Yeah. Another question? You're ghosting them, Shannon. You're just trying to drum up. But I think that's important. I think you do have to know your audience. You have to tailor what you're saying to who is in the room. And you really do want to develop collaborative relationships.
Kind of going between both of them, you started out smooth into like the parents. You got a very energetic kid, we struggle here and there, and then give them specifics after that. Like he's doing so great in this, and then follow up with a positive after that, so it doesn't feel like.
And you do want to be honest. And so you might say, he's doing great in this area. He needs more supports too. He's still learning to do this. She's still learning to do that. And this is what we would like to focus on. How's that sound? Yeah. Or is this something you would like us to focus on? Probably more inviting. Yes?
I often will tell my parents that I have to say this in the report if you want to get this funded. But in conversation, I'm using a strength-based language. They know where I stand. But I'm also educating them on the barriers that are at place to get your child this aid
Right.
or whatever.
So you are explicit with the families that I use these words because this is how we get funding. Yeah. It's too bad you didn't have unlimited time to write 2 reports, but I know we hardly have time to write 1 report. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Okay, thank you for your attention and your thoughts on the words. I know why. It's like St. Jude. I stole it. Donate. I don't know where it came from. I noticed that earlier. I was like, there were not even a St. Jude. There is the. I should turn this on.